This video will be taking a look at formatting assignment number 2, the Harbor Cafe. And so we will come up here to our Schoology. Again, we're in Unit 2, so if I'm in Business Applications, I'm just going Unit 2. Now I'm ready for Harbor Cafe. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And I have my instructions here. Just keep in mind, you also can download these or use them in a regular PDF. Some kids do them split screen instead of tabbing back and forth. It just depends on the assignment. For me, what I prefer to use. So I'm essentially going to create this document. If you look in the book, of course, you have the complete answer. As a reminder, I look here. This is meant to be done in Microsoft Word. The last assignment was in Documents. We want you to get used to going back and forth. Many of the basic functions are all the same. It's more the advanced features as you spend a little more time in the program that there's more of a big difference. So we're going to start with Harbor Cafe. And so again, this is a review of a bunch of the basic features. So we're going to start with the title, changing the font, and insert symbols. Your symbols won't need to match what we have. So let's take a look and get into Word. Then we're going to type the Harbor Cafe. So again, it was centered. So in Microsoft Word, we have our toolbars right up here, similar features. I'm going to click on Center. And let's see, let's double check that font real quick. And I was Algerian 26. So again, same thing, alphabetical order. So Algerian, size 26. And again, same thing applies. Fonts are in alphabetical order. It'll show some recently used ones at the top. So the Harbor Cafe looks like it's in all caps. The font itself is in all caps, so you probably don't need to do caps lock. The Harbor Cafe, and it will do the tilde on the E for you after you space after the letters. The next part of this is inserting symbols. And so that's a feature you probably haven't used before. And symbols look like you put in a little piece of clip art, but it's actually what we call a symbol, meaning it's you created like you would type a letter. So I'm going to go to Insert, and over here on the right, go to Symbols, and I'm going to select More Symbols. It has some basic ones that are fairly common here, but I'm going to go to More. And then you have a couple options at this symbol screen. So I can go here, and usually you'll find cool stuff in Webdings or Wingdings. So I can hit Wingdings, Wingdings 2. You can see a lot of these little shapes or special items here that might help out a project you might do, and Webdings. So you don't have to match what is in the assignment because you might spend all day looking for these. There's hundreds of them in each of these categories, so you don't necessarily have the last one. We just want you to use the feature. So I look on here, I will go ahead and get the alien's face. So I'm just going to hit Insert. It will stay in this menu. So if I hit Insert again, it's going to create another one. So I hit Close, and so I have this little alien dude in there, and I'm actually going to just copy and paste it. So you can use up here in Home, copy and paste. You can right click or use the keyboard, Control C, then Control V. I want it to be even up here, so I'm just going to take out these extra spaces so it has a nice look to it. So maybe the Harbor Cafe is on its way to Area 51 or something. But where would the harbor be, right? So that is symbols. Now the symbol also works like text. So if I want it larger, I would change the size. I'd highlight it and then change the size here. But we're at size 24, so we'll stay there so it looks good. Let's go back to our instructions. And as we scroll down, Sylphane 12 point, right align. So I'm going to come back and enter down maybe twice, and Sylphane, I think it was SYL, and what was that? Let's double check that. Size 12. All right. And since our spacing will be a little off, since we had this large font we entered down twice, I'm going to backspace here so that space isn't as pronounced. Align right, and then I'm going to do 125 Pine Hill Road. Just following the sample is where you get this text in your book. You should always actually do 2 spaces after a abbreviation of a state before you put the zip code, because then all the automated processes at the Post Office Plus, when people are sorting mail, it's easier to separate visually when they're looking at it. And then finally a phone number here, it looks like, 516. And then we enter down, and just visually I'm looking at it. And I'm going to come back to center, it looks like. And a lot of this, as you guys are working, especially those of you with more experience, if you can look at it and complete this, that's fantastic. Most of this should be a review. So I look at the rest of this, and I know I could type it all up pretty simply and have it centered correctly. I just need to double check the fonts. I've went ahead and entered the text, and as you can see, I've just followed the instructions that we looked at in Schoology. I've changed fonts as it's asked. I have similar symbol groups, so do I need to go look these up and type them one at a time? Just on this first one, and then I just selected it, copied and pasted it down so it was matching and it looks good. The one thing that gets a few kids is up here, this breakfast menu, the double underline. If in my toolbar, if I come up here in the top left, if I just hit the underline, it gives me 1, but if I hit this drop down arrow, those are all kinds of other types of underlines and underline color you can change. So I just switched to a double underline just so you guys could get into and see that menu. So here I am completed the Harbor Cafe, and same thing applies. I need to go ahead, insert my footer, and again, this is different than in Docs, so we're back in Word. We practiced this a little bit. So I go to Insert, Tab, and then over to Footer, and then I can just start typing. I tab, and on this one it'll kick me to the center, and this is Format 2, Harbor Cafe. And then you'll see when I tab over, it automatically puts the tilde on the E. And then of course, since we are in Word, we can go ahead and do our date and time stamp. So in the footer tools, you're just going to come down here, select the date and time, and select OK. And from there we have the file correctly stated. So I'm going to double click back in here, and so I'm back to the regular document, and I can double click back here if I have an error or need to fix my footer. So I can close, make sure I save and apply the correct save name here, and then you'll be ready to get it turned in. And again, this is a separate assignment. So you did formatting 1, then you do formatting 2, and after the third one, then we'll go through submitting them all together as one for the Unit 2 assignment.